Hi, folks. Welcome. This is our regular scheduled Cota one-on-one with our entrepreneurs that we do 2 or 3 times a quarter, and where we highlight some of the companies that we recently invested in. And today will be, for the first time, we'll be talking about a brand new company that Cota has invested in, started by Ambuj Kumar, co-founder and CEO. The company is called Simbian. So just to remind everyone, our mission is to invest in companies and entrepreneurs that are solving the net new. Either it's a new problem or a problem that hasn't been solved by technology before. And Symbian is a poster child of the latter category. And they're going after a very large problem that has not been solved by technology before. And here at Cota, we invest in these companies at the earliest stages, and where we led Ambuj's first institutional round and are very lucky to have a chance to partner with the company. So before we talk about Symbian in particular, I just want to get this slide out of the way. This is our legal disclaimer. Being an SEC registered firm, we have to do this. With that, I'll start the conversation with Ambuj. So Ambuj, it'll be great if you could first start with your personal background, where you grew up, and your professional career after that, and what led you to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, thanks, Adit, for having me. Really excited to share our story. So I grew up in a small village in Bihar, India. So nearest electric pole was 100 kilometers away from my home. And so in a way, it is as close to ground reality as it gets. But I was very lucky to start dream big from early days. And that has worked out well for me. One thing led to another. I qualified for IIT Kanpur to study electrical engineering. For those of you who may not know, IIT Kanpur is #1 engineering college in India. So I went to IIT Kanpur, and again, I really get inspired by working with people who are smarter than me. I take lots of learning and inspiration. So that certainly happened at Kanpur, where we had all these kids who had gotten gold medal at IMO and Physics Olympiad, and so best of India. But in that environment, I thrived, and I graduated top of my class in 2002, and didn't have money to apply to Stanford, because Stanford's application fee, I still remember, was $90. And so instead took a job at a small company back then, NVIDIA. And as they say, you can only connect the dots looking back. NVIDIA was just a hardware company. I started as a ASIC engineer, worked there for 8 years, became one of their senior most architects, created world's first out-of-order disk controllers, NVIDIA's fastest memory controller that is still powering their H100. Worked very closely with Jensen Huang, got to see him in through difficult times. NVIDIA was not certainly a company that always had things like what is today. So got my entrepreneurial bug from Jensen, and he was very accessible. That helped. And then started my own company in data security 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Raised $135 million there, sold to hundreds of enterprise customers, created by far the most secure platform in world. So worked with all 3-letter agencies, created a new category called confidential computing. It was so secure that even if you have physical access to your machine, root password, you cannot do anything. And now with Symbian, it's kind of taking other way where how do I build something that is used by 95% of the people in the world, not just 5%? So going back to where I started from, like all those companies who don't have talent, who don't have money, who and who are being bombarded by cyber threats, what can we do for them?
Thank you, Ambuj. Ambuj, another rated question is, would love to learn more about your personal motivation to become a entrepreneur in security, and with that, maybe share what Symbian's mission as a company is.
Yeah, so like all entrepreneurs have kind of weird motivation because it's a journey so hard. No rational mind will do that. For me, two things are important. One, excellence matters to me. So whatever I do, I work hard to be world's best at that. So Symbian is building AI agents for security operations. So I want my company to be the best, my product to be the best. So that's my one motivation. Other motivation I do see is that like once you start to reach a certain stage, you feel that you have obligation to use your talent um, to make others' life better. And so the calling I see for us and for me is that all the talent we have, all the smarts we have, and what can we do to protect our hospitals or banks or companies that see so much fraud in security and they have no idea where to start, and like cyber criminals taking hospitals hostage, and like constant churn of talent. And how do you give a tool that can be used by almost every security leader in whole world, and marrying those two things, right? Creating something that is best in the world. I call it a speed of light execution. So it's still finite, but best theoretical max, and maximizing our impact in good way. Those are things that motivate me.
Thank you, Ambuj. Thank you. Maybe as a follow-up question, um, the industry that obviously Symbian is going after is an industry that hasn't received any technological innovation, which is the security services industry, which is also called the MSSP industry, all dominated by consulting firms and humans. Would love to get your perspective, Ambuj, on this, how this industry works today, how large it is, who the players are, and what kind of service do they provide customers today?
Yeah, great question. So security is give or take $200 billion market. And by far, security operations centers, SOC is the largest spend. And inside SOC, people cost is the largest category. So Gartner estimates about 85 to $90 billion being spent on services. This could be external by MSSP or MDR or internal. And this is a very difficult market, very dynamic, because if you are an MSSP, you are constantly hiring people, training them. They work for you for a couple of years, then they might churn. You are trying to, you cannot hire too much ahead of your business, because then you are carrying people without assignment. At the same time, if you don't have capacity, you cannot onboard new customers. And new threats are coming, new tools are coming, new products are coming. So you have to be on top of all of those things. So it's a big investment. And at a scale, customers also don't get to see good things you do, threats that you prevent. They only get to see things that slip. So like there is a little bit of dynamic between MSSP and enterprise. Um, and now AI is really posing some unique challenges as well as opportunities. On one side, you may think that, hey, AI will bring automation and then it will erode my margin or take away my business. And those concerns are certainly valid. Um, but what we are saying is that um, there is there is no dearth of business opportunities in security. And the partners, and we are working with, like, for example, world's top three MSSP. And so what I see is that the partners that use Symbian AI agent to automate maybe bottom 75%, 90% of their work, their customers love them because their quality of security goes up. And from MSSP perspective, they can put their people on more accounts or do things that Symbian currently does not do. So they can take more customers, improve security quality, and everybody is happy. So it's a giant opportunity, and um, there are lots of external factors also. It's no secret that IBM sold its QRadar business to Palo Alto. Splunk got acquired by Cisco. Lots of things happening upstream of the SIM market. People are trying to collect data from all over the place. Does that data flow into SIM? Does that data flow into data lake, security data lake? Is it federated? Is it one giant pool, multi-cloud? Do I log everything everywhere, or it's distributed? If I store my Microsoft data in Microsoft Sentinel, that's free, but if you route it to Splunk, it's not. So lots of moving pieces. And companies like Symbian, we have this gigantic opportunity to create more value for customers working with our MSSP partners.
Thank you, Ambuj. And flipping the question on the other side, for enterprise customers that contract with these MSSPs to effectively look after them, what is the status quo there, and what are some of the challenges that they're running into?
Yeah, so status quo is kind of painful because when you are working for enterprise, um, that's the only thing you know, that's only environment you know or care about. Your MSSP partner, they are taking care of multiple customers, hundreds of customers, so you are one of them. So sometimes you get to access to their best people, sometimes not. But more importantly, what happens is that these MSSPs, they do not have access to your information. So they have access to your same EDR, XDR, but they don't have access to, for example, your HR system. They don't have access to your employees. They may not have access to your email. So with the limited visibility, MSSPs triage some alert, and they fail to reach a conclusion. So they think that it's true positive. They escalate it to you. It comes to you, and then you see that, okay, this was just somebody doing pen testing, so I should go and ignore it. So you have to be constantly involved and do the work where MSSPs kind of hand over to you. And from your perspective, sometimes you get frustrated because you think that MSSPs are just routing all the alerts to me, and I have to do lots of work. And AI, like solves that problem really neatly because our AI agents, they can access your tools. They would be private, and they can do the work that you do. So not only we are taking and doing the work from MSSP perspective, but we are also doing a whole bunch of work that you are doing. So you get your time back. You can, instead of being reactive, you can be proactive. You can tune your detection in engineering. You can go figure out that, okay, instead of putting all my data here, I should have a federated SIM architecture. So you can reduce your cost. You can do lots of proactive things if you are not burdened by just responding to all the alerts that MSSPs pass to you.
I see. So this is an insight that I didn't quite realize, is that when you contract with an MSSP, they don't have all the context for the work that the alerts that they're seeing. So with the limited context they have, they take the best guess and they send the guess back at you, and you essentially have more work to see what context they have plus all the context you didn't give them, and then resolve the whole thing yourself. So
Yeah.
essentially, it's work that you expected to outsource that's coming back at you again.
Yeah, exactly.
I
And
see.
then the second part is, action. So let's say that you figure out that port is being bombarded by an IP address external. Now you want to block that port. You want to block that IP address. And so for that, you need access to your firewall. And you may not want to give that access to an external party because it's high risk. But with AI, you can give that. So our AI agents, for example, not only triage and investigate, but also they take action. So they will go and do those things for you. If you want, you can say that, hey, before blocking, ask for my permission. So it will show you nice GUI. This is what I'm going to do. If you hit yes, it will go do that, just like your employee. And
I
that's
got
the
it.
real power of AI agents.
Ambuj, let's talk about AI agents and in the context of security, right? The world understands AI agents to be some workflow activated by a foundational model. Why is that not sufficient for a security agent? And can you tell me what does it mean to be a enterprise grade security agent that truly understands what it needs to do in the context of cybersecurity?
Yeah, good question. So there are multiple layers to it, right? So at the simplest layer, there is LLM. So you go to LLM and say that, hey, I see this alert from CrowdStrike Next Generation SIM. What should I do? And it will give you like general advice. Um, so that's the bare minimum. Then you have like chatbot where you can go talk to them actively. But we get into co-pilot mode where most of the companies are. In co-pilot mode, you are the pilot, you need to drive, somebody else will help, may not help. But as you know, like the hard part is finding that pilot. So that doesn't work. And so now we have AI agents. Idea behind AI agents is that there is large language model that has access to the tools, and it is invoking those tools as and when needed. Um, but if you start to think about it, like
Sharing
maybe,
knowledge. It's actually taking action.
yeah, it's calling those APIs, it's creating those parameters, it decides when to call which API with what values. All of that is being done by a product that is powered by LLM. Um, and then you start to think about how it will decide which API to call when. This is where reasoning comes in,
Hmm.
because reasoning will be like, okay, first I will go read, I maybe I get an email phishing alert from you, so I will go check that out, and based on what I find, I may go and do a deeper dive on Microsoft 365 stack. Maybe I'll reach out to your manager. Maybe I'll escalate it to your forensic team. Maybe I'll create incident response. So based on the findings from live environment, you are thinking, or LLM is thinking, or the software is thinking, and causing AI agents to go and do different things. So that is like real meaning of AI agent, meaning that it has access to the tools. It has a reasoning engine where it knows what to do based on what it sees. And where it gets a little bit trickier is security, because in security, you are never working in a static environment. In fact, you are working against another actor. Another actor is attacker, where they are trying to create situations where you are most likely to fail. So it's adversarial, where pace of innovation is set by somebody else. And so now the question is, if you are getting challenged on your weakest reasoning path, how do you handle that? So robustness and sophistication of reasoning need to be much more advanced in case of security. And this is why it's so challenging but so rewarding.
Thank you, Amuj. Thank you so much. So tell me more about the threat evolution of the threat landscape, right? So we've had a bunch of these attacks over the past 20 years. With the world of AI coming in, obviously you're talking about resolving these threats with AI, but your adversaries also have access to AI. And how do they use AI to create threats? And what does that mean? Like, how powerful are these adversaries actually becoming in the next 5 to 7 years?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a great question. So I'll give you before and after. So let's say not, I mean, even like 2 years ago, when a security researcher, they found a vulnerability in a software,
Mhm.
what they would do, they will go discreetly tell that vendor that, hey, we have found this vulnerability in your code. The vendor does all the work. They create a patch. So so they will go to NVD, say that we have a vulnerability. Here is a CVID. Here is the patch. Please apply the patch. And then they will give you maybe 3 months, 6 months. And then by that time, everybody has applied the patch. And then in some cases or many cases, now they will tell you what the vulnerability was and how to exploit it so that people know what was happening and can test for those things. Um, Now with AI, um, if you create a vulnerability and you tell what the vulnerability is or put a patch, people can generate that payload within seconds.
Hmm.
So, so the time to patch now need to be zero. Um, but if that is scary, there is something more, which is that forget about relying on security researchers to find these vulnerabilities. You can go to LLM, just copy paste the URL, an attacker agent can deconstruct your architecture. They can figure out what software you are using, what version you are using. It has list of all CVs ever published. And it can just brute force figure out what you have not patched. But also it can find new vulnerabilities, new zero-day attacks that were previously not found. And previously it had required PhD level security researchers. Now, all of these things can be done within minutes, maybe an hour, and it will cost you 37 cents.
I see. So it's not just automation, Ambush. What I heard is that these attackers have access to advanced reasoning models as well that can actually find new vulnerabilities as well as not tell the world about it and then exploit that.
Yeah, yeah. So what was earlier kind of North Korea type attack? Um, I mean, if you look at what North Korea did, in fact, recently with that cryptocurrency, that they compromised developers' account.
No, no, I don't know. We don't. Most people in the audience don't know what North Korea did.
Okay, so there are Bybit, right? And what North Koreans did was they compromised a GitHub developer's account. I mean, working for the company, and they put some code injection in the front end. So developer knowingly created a front end of the application where they thought that they were clicking a button to transfer money to bit crypto to their approved account, but the front end called some other APIs that was sending money to address controlled by adversary, and so they ended up knowingly transfer money to bad bad guys, and this is how they lost. I think it was like $1 billion or $1.5 billion, like the largest theft ever. And the thing is that this kind of sophistication where you needed to know who is the developer, you needed to compromise that one developer, you needed to create payload inside React or Next or whatever they were using and tie all of these things. It required a nation level adversary and coordination and money and time. With AI, you can do all of those things just like that. And if, I mean, 5 to 7 years you asked, I mean, I think it will be much faster, sadly. But what it will do is, if you are seeing these attacks that cost your adversary 37 cents, and you have to spend, in the best case, $10,000, putting manual effort to dismiss the alert, if you are lucky. If you get compromised, then it can cause you billions of dollars of damage. But even if you are catching them after spending $10,000, you'll go bankrupt. So if your adversary can create a situation for 10 cents and you have to spend $10,000, that doesn't work. So only way to survive and thrive this is when your defense cost like 1/10 of attacker. And this is what I call building AGI for cybersecurity. And that is the mission that Symbian is. Our goal is that we will build these AI agents so that our customers can diffuse any attack that will cost them 10 times less than what it took attacker to cause it. And that's how we win this game.
Thank you, Ambuj. So between attackers and Symbian, there's there's enterprises. And I just feel for them. What does their world look like in the next few years?
Yeah, two things happening. One, AI is evolving at a rapid pace. Like, so even for somebody like me who's like, this is my job, like just keeping track of all the big innovations happening, it's quite thrilling. One day one model, another day another model, new challenge, this, that. If you combine that with security, now you have x n squared problem or happenings. So it can be dazzling. But on the other hand, the promise of AI agents is that it will not add to your workload, it will remove. So all said and done, when you purchase Symbian, my promise to you would be that when you start your day, without Symbian, you have 100 things to do. With Symbian, you have only 8 things to do because we take care of 92% of problems without ever talking to you. So this is like your super successful, super helpful assistant where they're not coming to you and say that, hey, I want to do this. What do you think of it? I want to do this. Can you help? No, they will go and like take care of 92% of your work. So your calendar is 92% emptier. Your work queue is shorter, and so that promise is so appealing because finally leaders and practitioners, they will get time to be a little bit proactive and work on things where they wanted to.
Great. Thank you, Ambuj. Last question. Do you have a positive view on AI or a dystopian view of AI? Curious.
Yeah, like as an entrepreneur, my only job is to accelerate things. If Newton was not born, people would still have discovered all the laws of motion. Maybe it would have taken them 10 years more, 50 years more. Calculus, for example, was simultaneously invented by 2 people, Leibniz and Newton. So AI, same way. If Symbian does not do it, maybe some other company will do it in 10 years. And in those 10 years, companies and enterprises and consumers will suffer because the bad guys are not going to wait for it to evolve. So our only duty is to make full use of AI and help companies and do it as fast as we can. This is why, by the way, we also call our product Security Accelerator, because it accelerates security.
Great. Excellent. Ambuj, this was a fantastic half hour. Thank you so much for sharing your passion with us, your energy with us on this morning. I'm very lucky that Cota and my team are working with Symbian and look forward to helping you build your company for years to come.
Thanks, Adit.
Take care.